¿Cómo le responde usted a él?
I've said I'm going to go to the border. And
When are you going to the border, Vice President?
The administration has asked... I'm not finished. I've said I'm going to the border. And also, if we are going to deal with the problems at the border, we have to deal with the problems that cause people to go to the border, to flee to the border. And that is the root causes. So my first trip as Vice President of the United States was to go, in terms of a foreign trip, to Guatemala, to be on the ground there, to address and to be informed of the root causes. Why are the people of Guatemala leaving?
Do you have a date? ¿Tiene una fecha para su viaje a la frontera para ver la situación con sus propios ojos?
I will keep you posted.
I have to...
You think you've had a stressful week. Imagine being Kamala Harris. You take your first big trip south of the border to what we used to call the developing world, and you're pretty excited about it because you know that as a licensed person of color, all the other people of color you're going to meet will be thrilled to see you. That's how it works in the people of color community. They've got so much in common that getting along is effortless. It's one big happy community. You're oppressed, they're oppressed, you'll be friends. If you're Kamala Harris, that's what you've always assumed. But it turns out you were wrong. You finally get to Guatemala and you discover that actually the people there detest you. They could care less about all the glass ceilings you say you've shattered. They're not impressed by your political science degree or the fact that you once chaired the Black Law Students Association in college. They find you phony and annoying. In fact, they strongly prefer the orange man you replaced. At least he was funny. So they tell you to buzz off and go home. Get out of here and don't come back. Imagine how that must feel if you're Kamala Harris. Quite the psychic blow. So you can't really blame the unnamed White House staffer who swooped in to save the day, hiring a fake Univision reporter to suck up to Kamala Harris and make her feel better. And we can't prove that happened, though it does make sense. We do know that Univision denies that the lady who told Harris, "I voted for you," at a press conference, had ever worked for the network. So whoever she was, she made Kamala Harris's day. "Thank you," Harris replied gratefully. And then, her spirits raised, Kamala Harris returned to immigration policy. What is her immigration policy exactly? Simple. Now that we've solved every domestic problem and turned this country into a peaceful, happy utopia, it's time to take all the money we've got left over and give it to Central America. Only by doing that can we solve the, quote, root causes of immigration. Watch.
What we must do to address the root causes of migration, to address the root causes. The issue of root causes is not going to be solved in one trip. To address the root causes as though it's something that can be dealt with overnight. To feel the effects of those root causes on our shores. And the root causes are based on the problems and the challenges that people are facing in countries like Guatemala, which is why I was there. We have to address the root causes.
There's a lot of root causes. So what are these root causes? Well, they include climate change, of course, violence against women, Uber shortages in Midtown over holiday weekends, and the patriarchy. Once we solve those, we're done. We've solved the problem. So it's simple. Make Latin America perfect. That's all we need to do. It shouldn't be hard. People like Kamala Harris have a demonstrated record of dramatically improving everything they touch. Take a trip on Bay Area rapid transit sometime and you'll see what we mean. Which is not to say that transforming Honduras into Monaco will be effortless. A project like that could take weeks. But no matter how long it takes, we have a moral responsibility to do it. Because as Sandy Cortez learned during her recent undergraduate days at Boston University, we're the ones who made Central America crappy in the first place. It's our fault. Everything is our fault, and especially this.
What we, as a country, what the United States has not done is actually own up to the fact that we have contributed to regime change, destabilization, and interventionist foreign policy that has contributed to these awful conditions throughout Latin America. And we cannot, as a country, no matter who it is, continue to show up in Latin America and say that this is their fault or that they are to blame.
Now, wait a second, Sandy. Recognizing that you were an international studies major, but still, some of us are wondering, wasn't it Spain that brutally colonized Latin America? So shouldn't Madrid be kicking into the reconstruction fund here? Or is European Spain now considered a nation of color and therefore blameless? We'll have to check with a BU professor on that and get back to you. But in the meantime, here's an idea, kind of a random one. Why don't we fix the United States first? We had a conversation with, of all people, the president of El Salvador not so long ago, and he made that point. We are in his country shooting a documentary on MS-13 and immigration. During that interview, the president pointed out that actually it might make more sense for people on, say, the south side of Chicago to apply for refugee status in El Salvador, not the other way around, because it's less dangerous in El Salvador. The United States has seen a dramatic increase in crime and in murders in cities across the country. What would your advice be to leaders in the U.S.?
To be tough on crime. Actually, now, before El Salvador was the murder capital of the world. Like 3 years ago, we were the murder capital of the world. Now, crime has been reduced by 75%, violent crimes. And so now it is more dangerous to live in Chicago, for example, than to live in El Salvador.
We'll show you more from that. It's on our Originals episode on Fox Nation. It's about how El Salvador tamed MS-13. But the president's point, what you just saw, is not crazy. It's not just a talking point. It's actually true. According to the numbers, El Salvador is, in fact, safer than many major American cities. El Salvador, safer than Baltimore, for example. In 2018, Baltimore had 51 murders per 100,000 people. The same year, San Salvador had a smaller number, 50 per 100,000. San Salvador was long the most dangerous city in the hemisphere. Baltimore, by the way, also has a higher murder rate than Guatemala, Honduras, and Afghanistan. So why don't people who live in Baltimore have a right to apply for asylum in Central America? Thanks to good leadership, El Salvador is getting safer. Meanwhile, thanks to people like Kamala Harris, our country is becoming far more dangerous.
From vicious attacks in broad daylight to cold-blooded murders by night, another summer of sin is already underway in New York City. Shootings year-to-date are up 81%. This weekend alone, 27 people were wounded in 22 shootings, including a Manhattan federal prosecutor hit by a stray bullet in the face while having dinner at a restaurant. Bullets went flying in New Jersey this weekend, where a birthday party turned into a mass shooting. 14 partygoers were shot, 2 died. Community members blame gang wars. Chicago had a worse weekend, where 9 people were killed and 38 injured by gunfire. The victims include a 15-year-old boy shot in the head while sitting on a front porch.
So it really is getting more dangerous. It's not your imagination. And by the way, murder may be the only event in human life that the U.S. government tracks accurately. It's kind of hard to hide the body most of the time. So we know for a fact that major American cities saw a massive increase in homicides, overall 33% increase in homicides last year, and that's continuing this year. And that leads some people to wonder why Kamala Harris is promising to rebuild Central America rather than America. One of the people wondering is a man called Andrew Holmes.
My message goes out to the president, goes out to everybody, mayor and everybody. Come get on the grounds. Do what we got to do. We need them to come out on the streets here. You know, you fly at Air Force One over there to take care of people overseas and don't take care of the United States, don't take care of Chicago. And the same thing with all elected officials. Come on out here on these streets. These streets are full of blood.
Well, yeah, that's not a partisan talking point. It's true. How can they continue to ignore what's happening in Chicago? And not just in Chicago, a lot of places. The formerly peaceful city of Knoxville, for example, Tennessee. Knoxville is now on track for its deadliest year in history, even worse than last year, which had set the previous record. So what happened to Knoxville? Well, the same thing that always happens to places that decline. Terrible leadership, neoliberal nonsense, frenzies of guilt-fueled professional class self-hatred, elected morons like India Kincannon. India Kincannon is somehow the mayor of Knoxville. She recently announced that she would personally join in painting a BLM mural. Quote, "I understand now more than ever, it is not okay just to stand up to justice inequity," she told reporters. "We must all be actively anti-racist." Anti-racist. So what are the practical consequences of so-called anti-racism? Well, we know, we see it all around us, the consequences are more misery and more race hatred. No question about that. Ask your kids what they're learning in school. Behind the scenes, this ideology means fewer and less effective police. Crime spikes, drug addicts living in the park, children murdered in drive-bys. That's all still happening across the country. In fact, it's happening more, but getting less coverage. You rarely hear the phrase defund the police these days. Why? Because normal people of all colors, of all political registrations, normal people found that slogan terrifying and deranged, because it is. So Democrats told their troops to pick a new euphemism. But the idea didn't disappear. It's still with us. Here's Congresswoman Cori Bush of St. Louis explaining that police are the real threat to public safety.
I understand that people don't like the slogan. I get that, but I don't like death. I don't like Black death. I don't like to keep seeing my people die at the hands of police and nothing is happening. I don't like that. So I think I can't care about people's feelings. I can't care about, what if you like.
Where does talk like that bring us in the end? Nowhere good. But in point of fact, everything she said is untrue. A lot of people are dying in St. Louis, but not at the hands of police. What's happening there? Well, the murder rate in St. Louis has literally skyrocketed. You're now more likely to be shot to death in St. Louis than you are to be killed in Guatemala City. Guatemala City, a place that has been famous for decades for being violent. But St. Louis is now more violent. That's true. So maybe it's our country that needs the attention these days.